had a friend who was producing a compilation album featuring local metal bands.
Lars called me up and said, hey, if I put together a band, can I be on your compilation album? I said, yeah, absolutely, no problem.
Lars had really had a spot on the record, but no band. So, in my kind of will and maybe greediness to get going in this thing, said, okay, we'll hook up.
The band had a spot reserved on an upcoming album. Soon they had a second guitarist, Dave Mustaine.
I went in there and I set up my gear. I started warming up, and these guys were all in the other room. And I walked in there and I said, come on, let's go. And they said, you got the job. And I went, well, that's easy.
In 1981, Metallica's frenetic two-guitar sound was a direct assault on LA's softcore glam rock scene.
We weren't doing what they were doing. They were playing pretty much cheeky music because they wanted the girls, and all we wanted to do was rule the world.
If you came here to see spandex and big hair, this ain't your band, and that was kind of became our war cry, you know?
Metallica met with an apathetic response in the LA clubs, which only served to fuel their aggressive play.
That developed our style. We were up on stage, we wanted attention. We're going to play louder, we're going to play faster.
Our whole existence pretty much was for guitar dominating the world and getting liquored up.
In the winter of 1981, a benefit for Metal Mania magazine brought the band to San Francisco. The city was a hotbed for the new heavy metal movement.
Everybody just wanted to make the most obnoxious, loudest, scare your parents, annoy people, fastest music you could.
That heavy crunch stuff was way new, and everybody loved it, you know. It tickles your same kind of funny bone that makes you break windows when you're a kid.
One of those Bay Area fans was Exodus guitarist Kirk Hammett.
I couldn't believe what I was seeing. It was the most original, heaviest, fastest thing I had ever seen in my life.
By the time Metallica returned to Los Angeles, tensions within the band were building. Dave Mustaine's drinking was getting out of hand.
There was always some clashing between Ron and Dave. Ron couldn't hang. He didn't want to be a part of it anymore.
Ron was soon out, and Metallica was in the market for a new bassist.
Lars had asked me, they were kind of looking around for another bass player, and he asked me if I knew anybody. I said, well, why don't you guys come down and see this band Trom at the Troubadour? They're pretty cool. I think you might like the bass player.
When I first saw Cliff Burton, I'd never seen anybody quite like him on stage.
And his headbanging on stage, I mean, nobody banged like him. It was insane. I remember the first time I saw them play with him, I was like, oh my God, look at that guy.
The next day after a performance, he'd get up and, oh God, my neck, I can't understand. Cliff, what do you mean? Your neck, you're bouncing your head up and down all night long, and you wonder why your neck hurts. So, anyway, he kind of smiled.
You know, after 6 months of courting him, it just came to the point where he would join the band on that one condition, which was if we wanted him in the band, Metallica goes to Northern California.
LA sucks!
We really had no problem with that. LA wasn't treating us very well at all.
Metallica moved to San Francisco in the spring of 1983 and rented a small house in El Cerrito. These were lean times for the band, but they had found a home for their unique brand of metal.
We just moved all the furniture out of the house and invite 50 headbanging friends over, put Venom on the stereo, and just thrash the place, you know?
By the time you walk in the club, we just be like, metal rules! That guy's got a blonde stripe in his hair. Kill him! Kiss that Motley Crue creep! You know, it's like that. At one point, we were tearing people's shirts off that said bands we didn't like.
There was kids with denim jackets on that had Metallica patches on the back, and the support band was playing, and they turned around, they turned their backs on them, and we're standing there doing this, you know? And it's like, wow, they're loyal to us. They're our people, you know?
Coming up, hard rock hits hard times in New York City.
We didn't have a lot of money.
And later, Metallica's future almost goes up in flames.
A big colored flame goes right up under me.
And his skin is bubbling like on the Toxic Avenger.
When Behind the Music continues. In 1983, Metallica had moved to San Francisco to join forces with eccentric bass genius Cliff Burton. At that time, a brisk underground trade in tape cassettes kept metal fans up on the latest hot bands.
A band that would never play once would get famous around the world within a few months just from the copies of their demo getting around all around the world.
When Lars circulated Metallica's 7-song demo, No Life Till Leather, The band became an underground sensation.
That they had this huge, giant following before they even really had a record out.
Metallica's demo wound up in the hands of Johnny and Marcia Zazula, who ran a music flea market in New Jersey called Rock and Roll Heaven. It was the East Coast capital of the growing metal movement.
Metallica was the answer to America's prayers. They were the first band we heard that really made America look
They gave
good.
the American headbanger something to hang your hat on.
Johnny Z offered to manage Metallica and to secure them a recording deal.
So we come out to New York and we meet this guy who was giving us, $75 to drive across the country. It's like, hi, we're Metallica. Hi, I'm Johnny Z. Well, John, come here. Well, you see the guy with the Dave Mustaine? We're actually going to get rid of him next week. Whoa.
That trip was very detrimental to my leaving the band. When we would get drunk, they would get silly and I would get really violent. And violent people and silly people don't mix when they're inebriated.
They came to the East Coast, hungry with a goal and a mission. We were ready to guide their career. We had shows for them, but we were not people of means. And they wanted to rehearse, and they wanted to play. But we said, what are we going to do? So Anthrax had a place, a little rehearsal place in Queens.
We set him up with a room at this place, the Music Building in Jamaica, Queens, which was basically what would be now considered like a crack house.
We had the added luxury of also living there because we couldn't afford to live anywhere else.
We had a toaster oven and an igloo cooler that we lived out of, all four of us in this place.
On a good day, we would sneak down a local McDonald's. On a bad day,
it was loser's lunch, we called it. It was bologna on hand because they didn't even have white bread. I mean, nothing.
We were sleeping on U-Haul blankets. That was us. And we all got up early one morning and walked into the other room where Dave was sleeping. And
shake, shake, shake. Dave wakes up and rolls over. And what's going on, guys?
I look up and I see the four of them. They said, you're out of the band. And I said, what? No warning? No second chance?
the famous line, Dave, you're out of the band. When's my plane leave?
Well, you're spending the next 4 days on a Greyhound bus that leaves in 45 minutes, to pack your together and let's go to the bus station before you even know what hit you. And that was that.
No sooner had Dave Mustaine boarded a bus than Kirk Hammett arrived in New York to audition for the band.
I walked in, and those guys were sleeping. And I looked at my watch, and it was like 6 o'clock at night, and they were just getting up. And I was thinking, how rock and roll.
The first song we played was Seek and Destroy. And Kirk pulled off this solo and was like, things are going to be all right, man.
And we went to the studio and recorded Kill 'Em All. From then on, I thought, well, I guess I'm in the band.
We parlayed everything we had to make this Kill 'Em All record. We thought this was an amazing record. It was a classic.
We have a debut album out on Megapush Records. It's called Kill 'Em All. We're glad to kill all you tonight. Who wants this?
The international metal underground was primed for Metallica's first album, Kill 'Em All, and sales soared to over 300,000. The band toured Europe and America for most of 1983, supporting the album and widening their audience.
They lived it, they breathed it, they slept it, metal. And the kids did the same exact thing.
We were very proud that we were four regular guys in street clothes getting up there and jamming.
Why should we change? We're on stage. We're not trying to be something big and fancy, it's just us doing what we do. I'd like to keep it that way.